Fight Mike here. Today I'm going to be doing the full card reaction and breakdown to UFC Doha that just took place, that was just headlined by Arman Tsarukyan and Dan Hooker. It was a really good card overall. There was a bunch of finishes, especially on the main card. But let's jump straight in with the early prelim. We got Marek Buljo versus Denzel Friedman. I picked Denzel Friedman, I think by decision. This wasn't a good fight though. Neither of these guys should be in the UFC. They needed to come through the Dana White's Contender Series so we could see that they were going to stand and stare at each other for 15 minutes. It was a really bad fight. Neither guy really just wanted to win. Denzel was just doing a little bit more. He was landing some leg kicks. He landed a couple of jabs. But neither guy was really doing anything the entire time. It was like both of them were just happy to make it to the end of the fight and actually not get knocked out. They both looked so relieved the second the fight finishes, but it just didn't look like either of them wanted to be there. I don't think that was a UFC level fight there. And it's because neither of them went through the Dana White's Contender Series and they've only got like a handful of fights each. We shouldn't be signing these sorts of guys, but I'm sure that one of them will get cut after this and hopefully come back through the Dana White's Contender Series. Moving on, we've got Narulo Aliyev versus Shaquem Rock. Narulo looked really good in this one. He was dominating Shem Rock this entire time. I'm surprised he wasn't able to dominate Shem in the wrestling a little bit more, but in the striking, he was so much faster. Shem has the sort of same problem Paddy Pimblett has, where he just doesn't really move his head. And on the back foot, on the front foot, Aliyev was just able to land so many hooks over the top of Shem Rock's guard. It's sort of like the Cheeto Vera guard, where it's just like the punching bag type guard, where you just get hit a bunch of times. And for Shem Rock, he was able to defend the takedowns, and he did look quite good. And some of his kicks were all right here and there, but he just couldn't do enough for the speed of Narulo Aliyev. Aliyev was all over him the entire fight. He did get a little bit tired as the fight went along, and I did expect him to dominate in the wrestling, so I don't think he's the prospect that we think he is, but at least we could see if his plan A doesn't work, that his plan B does. So good win for Narulo Aliyev there. Moving on, we've got Ismail Nurdiev versus Ryan Loder. Ryan Loder demolished again. He got demolished by Azamat Bekoev last fight. This time doesn't even get to shoot at a takedown. Instantly into it, you could tell he was coming in with like a victim mentality. He was biting on all of the feints of Ismail Nurdiev. And Nurdiev's not really known to have like nuclear power. So for Ryan Loder to be like skittish on the back foot, getting pushed back instantly without even a strike landing, you knew it was done for Ryan Loder. And he gets slapped with a straight right after doing a flurry of punches Juliana Pena would be really proud of. It was just brutal flatline KO, instantly went out. He's also one of these guys that are coming through the Ultimate Fighter. Those sorts of prospects aren't as good nowadays. Like maybe that was just that season, because I remember Robert Valentin was another guy that came out of there. Maybe that season was just a bad one, but I feel like those prospects are dipping a little bit, and I'm less and less impressed with them each time. Moving on, we've got Bekzat Almacan versus Alexandre Topuria. This was a really fun fight. I did think that Bekzat was going to be able to get it done. I also picked Nurdiev to get it done by, I think I picked it by submission, not KO, but not too sure. I could have picked a round 1 KO there. But for Bekzat Almacan versus Alexandre Topuria, I was going with Almacan by decision. I thought that he was going to be more active on the feet and not get caught too much by Alexandre and be able to just outdo Alexandre, especially since he's got such a good scramble ability. But Almacan had a great first round. He was doing some nice leg kicks, sweeping Alexandre off his feet. Scrambled. I think Alexandre got a really good like hip toss at one moment whilst Bekzat went for a takedown. Might have been like, can't actually remember what type of takedown it was, but Alexandre got into mount, and Bekzat was able to scramble out of it really easily, which was quite impressive. And in round 1, he was really making Alexandre work hard. And Almacan, although he wasn't landing too much, he was just being more active. But round 2, from then on, it wasn't really too much from Bekzat coming back. Early on, Topuria was able to get an easy takedown, and he was just ducking under, I think it was like an overhand right of Bekzat, because Bekzat does throw wild, and Alexandre just waited for it, dived on the double leg, and Was able to keep him down for a while. I think, no, what am I saying? He didn't keep him down at all. Almacan was again able to get back up a little bit. I think it was like 20 seconds of control time. And Almacan, just for the rest of that round, was getting pushed back the entire time. He had some markings on his face after round 1. And then round 2, he was getting really hit a little bit more clean. It was still a close-ish round, though, but I would just give it to Topuria for the visible damage and pushing Almacan backwards, because Almacan was being quite inactive off the back foot, but he was still landing some peppery shots here and there, and I thought that Topuria was going to unload a little bit more, but he was still staying at like a one shot at a time. And although he has very, very good defense, and he doesn't get peppered with like little shots as much as Ilya does, he does land a lot less devastating as when Ilya lands, because you could see in that second round he was really going for some of those shots, and they just didn't seem to have the same effect on Bekzat there. And for Bekzat, it looks like he was finding Topuria's feints really hard to read. Topuria was doing a lot of level change feints coming in and then throwing low high or just going straight high, usually starting off with the rear right hook, which is quite a crazy shot to start off with. But then round 3, Topuria was just really stalking him down. He was like crossing his feet, constantly walking forward. He doesn't trudge forward the same way that Ilya does, but he was still encroaching on Bekzat. He was landing a lot more in the round 3. He was opening up. Maybe he's a guy that's better over 5. But then he lands 2 massive right hands in a row, dropping Bekzat to a knee for one of them. But then he just doesn't really follow for the finish straight after, which I think is something that his brother would definitely do. But it was a very good performance from Alexandre Topuria there. Very, very impressive. Especially against a guy who was able to drop Umar and didn't seem to have that. He didn't really pose that much problems for Alexandre Topuria in this fight. I think both of them can end up ranked in their career. Moving on, we've got Abdulrahman Yakayev versus Rafael Kakera. I went with Yakayev by a round 1 KO. He got a round 1 submission, almost by KOing him straight away. Very fast win for Yakayev here. And for Kakera, how many times have you got to get finished in the first round in the UFC before they cut you? Like, this is like 4 losses in a row at least, maybe 3 losses in a row. I'm pretty sure it's 4. And then 3 by first round KO, or first round finish at least. But it starts off, they touch gloves. Yakayev instantly goes for a spinning wheel kick and then goes for like the Robert Whittaker 1-2 head kick out of southpaw. Almost flatline KOs Kakera 10 seconds into it. And then Kakera like tries to recover, tries getting back up, gets hit with a bunch of hooks up against the cage, and then gives up I think he gives up his back for a rear naked choke from Yakayev. It was a very, very quick and easy win. And that's how you dispatch of Rafael Kakera, not like how Julius Walker did, which was why I picked against Alonzo Menefield. But going back to this, Kakera, you got to be disposing of him within like a couple of minutes to be a good prospect. And to be fair, Yakayev looked really clean out there. It was a nice spinning wheel kick, and that 1-2 head kick looked like a speed from a lightweight out there. So very impressed from Yakayev. He's 24 years old. Beat Kakera. That's like a regional level win to me, but I'm excited to see what's coming next. Moving on, we've got Alex Perez versus Asu Almabayev. This was a very weird performance from both guys. Perez was very good in this fight. I didn't expect him to do that well. He had a very good start, especially. He was pressuring Asu back. Asu was throwing wheel kicks early, landing some good body kicks now and then. And Perez was able to defend an early takedown, looked super aggressive, started pushing Asu back, landing some massive hooks over the guard of Asu Almabayev. And Almabayev wasn't fully out of it, but it was first round, Perez was really outstriking Asu, but he was landing some big shots here and then, but also missing some shots quite often. Round 2, Perez started going for the takedowns. It was not what I expected. I thought his grappling was going to be more so defensively. Round 2, Perez just got himself a takedown instantly into the round, and I think he even got one straight afterwards as well. And he started just working for a KO. He was throwing everything into the shots against Asu. He was landing really clean on him as well. Asu showing a good chin, good recovery as well. Perez was looking slick. We haven't seen him for a while. He was injured after the Tatsuro Taira performance there. And it's good to see him get back in there and have a good performance, even if he did lose the fight. In the second round, Asu started working back into it, though, with the uppercut as Perez was throwing those winging wide hooks. But then round 3, Asu knew he was 2 rounds down. And I think Perez even got a takedown late into round 2. Round 3, though, Asu comes straight out there, lands a couple of big shots, lands a wheel kick again, and then Perez must have felt like the grappling was safe for him, goes for a takedown off a reaction off one of the punches after the wheel kick, and gets guillotined. It was such a shame. He was picked up in the air by the guillotine. Asu just held on for dear life. It was a very locked-in guillotine. It was very impressive. Great win for Asu, being able to pull it out of the back. Pull it out at the end of the fight after being 2-0 down. It's a very good win for him. Shame for Perez, though. Been out for injury, coming off a couple of losses. He looked really good out there. If he can stay active, I can see him beating guys like Steve Erceg. So, shame for Perez. Good performance for Asu there. Moving on, we've got Nicholas Dalby versus Sagid Isaac Makayev. I have no idea how to say his name, but I picked Nicholas Dalby. I thought I was one of the only ones picking Dalby. I think that this was a crafty pick. People were just writing him off because he's 41 years old, but Sagid hasn't fought for 2 years, and that's why I picked against him. You never pick guys who have had good performances but haven't fought for a while because you never know how they're going to come back. And it was a double whammy for me because he hasn't fought for a while and he's coming from ONE FC. I have no idea how good he's actually going to be for a UFC guy. Nicholas Dalby, especially a guy who's never been finished in the UFC. Or no, he's only been finished once in his entire career by Randy Brown. But Sagid was... I think he should have been evens odds in this. I don't think that Nicholas Dalby should have been such a big underdog. And I think that Sagid looked super flat out there. He didn't look urgent at all. And it kind of looks like, when Saeed Nurmagomedov, they've sort of got a similar beard and shaped face. And when you watch him in person, well, not in person, but when you watched him today on screen, Sagid's beard and hair look quite similar to Saeed Nurmagomedov. And he kind of looks like, when Saeed's in the 5th round, how he looks completely gassed. That's how Sagid looks the entirety of a fight. And he was just on the feet doing nothing the entire time. He would get some good positions in the grappling, took the back of Nicholas Dalby at sometimes. But Dalby was able to just smudge him up against the cage, stink it up, land some knees to the thigh, land some punches in the clinch, land some knees to the clinch as well. And Dalby was able to just out-cardio and just outdo Sagid in a very unentertaining performance from the both of them. Moving on to the next one, we've got... pardon me. We've got Bogdan Grad versus Luke Riley. Very good win for Luke Riley here. It was a fantastic debut against a tricky guy in Bogdan Grad. He gave Luke Riley a lot of problems early, especially in the grappling. He was taking down Riley at will, controlling him easily. Grad was completely smudging him for the first round up against the cage, would take him down, let him get back up, take him down again. Got about 3 takedowns in the round, but then round 2, Bogdan came out looking to throw some wild exchanges, and then Riley catches him with a clean left counter hook and with a couple of shots of ground and pound, sleeping Bogdan Grad out cold. Really, really good performance from Luke Riley. I thought it was a sketchy first round. And I think he is going to have some trouble with some of these smaller guys who are like even Bogdan Grad's last opponent, Muhammad Naimov. I think he would pose some problems for Luke Riley because Naimov's got a decent chin, a little bit better wrestling than Bogdan Grad, and he's a bit more experienced and not as wild and crazy. So Luke Riley will struggle with some of those wrestlers, but still such a good win, and he's got nuclear power, this Luke Riley. Great prospect coming out of England. There's this bunch of guys coming out of there now. Moving on, we've got Tagir Ulanbekov versus Kyoji Horiguchi. This was a really fun fight, and again, a good underdog prediction from myself. I picked Kyoji. Again, I picked him by decision, but he was able to get it done by a submission, almost finishing Ulanbekov by a KO. But Ulanbekov early looked pretty okay. He was struggling a little bit with the footwork of Kyoji Horiguchi, and Horiguchi was defending the grappling super well. He's got that short stature, so he was able to defend the takedowns quite easily. He was landing some good leg kicks and right hands over the top, making Ulanbekov bite on all of his feints. And then round 2, he just almost KOs Ulanbekov instantly into the round and lands like a hard leg kick straight after, dropping Tagir. And then Kyoji's landing good ground and pound. And at this point, I'm looking at him thinking like, damn, you're going to be a top 5, top 3, maybe championship challenger fighter. Like, Tagir really impressed me in this one. He looked so good out there. And not Tagir, why did I say that? Kyoji looked good out there. Tagir had his worst performance ever. But he dropped Tagir and he almost KO'd him to ground and pound in the second round. But Ulanbekov worked his way back up, looked super tired, was wincing, got hit with a massive leg kick, winced at that, hit with a body shot, almost dropped by it as well. And then Kyoji was able to dominate the rest of that round. Round 3, though, Kyoji comes back out, almost chins Ulanbekov again, and then was able to get some really good ground and pound. It was a left hook at the start of the round, literally first punch of the round. Beautiful shot, like for a 34-year-old flyweight. Like, he's landing these clean shots. I'm so excited to see Kyoji invigorate this flyweight division. He's really that good. And just starts getting some... Because before I go back to actually how the fight goes down, because you know how good Tagir Ulanbekov's grappling is. And Kyoji had his number the entire time in this fight. Even when he got taken down in round 1, able to work back up at every position. He's such a good fighter. I knew he was really good, and that's why I picked him, but I didn't realize he was this good. So, going back to round 3, ground and pound after dropping Tagir with a left hook, and Tagir tries to get back up, and Kyoji lands like this beautiful head kick and then starts getting some ground and pound, and upon trying to recover, Tagir gave up his back and gets rear naked, choke it out cold. No tap from the Nurmagomedov team. I knew he wasn't going to tap. As soon as it was locked in, it was over. Fantastic win from Kyoji Horiguchi. I hope he challenges for the title because he's such a good fighter. Moving on, we've got Waldo Cortes-Acosta versus Shamil the Blob Gaziev. Salsa Boy's done it again. You know I didn't like Salsa Boy. I like him now. I always like these guys taking short notice fights, and he's such a gangster for it. Shamil coming out with the boxing early, pressuring Waldo Cortes-Acosta, landing a couple of barrages of shots, and Cortes showing that legendary chin yet again, and countered Gaziev with a beautiful power jab with the right hand, and Gaziev just started drowning straight after that, started chewing on the gum shield. Couple of seconds later, literally got dropped, worked his way back out, dropped by the power jab, worked his way back out. And then, I think it was the very next punch, Waldo lands a beautiful overhand right, sleeping Spivak out cold. The Blob story's over, but to be honest, I'll trade one Blob for another. I'll trade Shamil the Blob Gaziev for the Salsa Boy with the iron chin. I know I was hating on him so much, literally in August, again, when he was fighting against Sergey Pavlovich. But I'm all back on the train. I'm back on the bandwagon of Salsa Boy. I'm excited to see it. Moving on, we've got Jack Hermansson versus Myktybek Orolbai. Now, look, this wasn't my best moment. This was the one that I was telling all my friends, even told my dad about this one. Like, I was like, yeah, Jack Hermansson, he's going to be able to get this one done. Crafty vet. He was able to out-crafty Joe Pyfer out there. I know he got slept by Gregory Rodriguez, but Gregory's a massive guy. He's coming down to welterweight. He was a small middleweight. He has all the skill in the world. Nah, he didn't get it done. I really did think he would have it in him, but we saw the worst version of Hermansson we've ever seen. And not to take it away from Myktybek Orolbai, we saw the best Orolbai we've ever seen, and we saw the worst Hermansson. I think it was the combination of both. We knew it coming into it. Hermansson coming down was either going to be a good or bad thing, and Orolbai coming up was always going to be a good thing. But against Gregory Rodriguez, I would even say Hermansson looked much better. I instantly knew in this fight that he was going to get finished because every single exchange, he was pulling back the same way as how he got finished against Gregory Rodriguez, where they would go for a right hand or they would go for an exchange and he's pulling back and just rearing back and not even bringing his hands all the way with him, just twitching away from him. And I knew that Orolbai was going to finish him. And he looked slower than he'd ever looked out there. And I'm sure it's because of the weight cut. And Orolbai, to his credit, was on smoke from the beginning of the fight. He looked super fast, swinging shots. I think he was landing a really nice straight right hand to the body, which was really effective on Jack Hermansson. And then he was putting him under such crazy amounts of pressure. And I thought Jack would wrestle as the bigger guy, but he never really put it behind him. And it was just a few shots in a row. There was like an overhand and then a left hook. A couple of exchanges in a row where Orolbai was landing these clean shots. And then I knew it was coming. And just lands a beautiful shot behind the ear of Jack Hermansson. Not even the cleanest shot. And then it was just straight out cold from there for Jack Hermansson. Such a shame. I want to see him do well in the UFC, but I think he needs to retire after that one. It was such a vicious knockout. Reminded me of the Magny versus Prates knockout, where it was such a brutal one in such a weird positioning as well. But going to Orolbai, giving him some credit here, he looked so fast out there. Like in lightweight, he looks almost like he's Benoit Saint Denis out there, swinging super slowly out there, not looking too technical. But at welterweight, he looks so technical. Maybe it's because he's coming up against a former middleweight. But I thought that he was the more technical guy out there. And I wasn't expecting that. He looked really good. He didn't even need the grappling and just slept out cold Jack Hermansson with a great performance from Myktybek Orolbai. Moving on to the feature fight, we've got Volkan Oezdemir versus Alonzo Menefield. This was a really good performance from Volkan Oezdemir. I went with Volkan to get it done by KO. He got it done easily. Early on, I was a bit worried. I thought he got stung like instantly into it because he was like wobbling on his feet, but I think he was just off balance. But then he was just pressuring Menefield up against the cage constantly and just started clubbing him with hooks around the guard. And once he landed like a couple of exchanges, Menefield looked a bit skittish and he was constantly pressured like with his back fully up against the cage. And Volkan kept that pressure going, landed a beautiful knee and an uppercut following up behind it. And the head movement from Alonzo Menefield, he was going for it straight after getting rocked by that knee and uppercut. And Oezdemir was just throwing shots, going for a barrage, and then ended up with a nice left hook KO. It was just, I don't actually know if it was a left hook. It was just a hook within the barrage. Knocks out Menefield. It was like 3 punches at the end of it that just folded him up like a lawn chair. Good bounce back for Volkan Oezdemir. He's been out of the cage for a long time. Was out since, I want to say, August last year against Carlos Olberg. So really good for him to get back onto winning ways against Alonzo, who had lost 2 in a row. But to be honest, I didn't rate Alonzo. That loss against Juicebox Julius Walker really was unimpressive, especially since I think Julius Walker got dropped twice by Rafael Coquero, who's getting finished by everyone else in the first round. So good performance from Oezdemir there. Moving on, we've got Belal Muhammad versus Ian Garry. Again, not one of my best predictions here. I went with Belal Muhammad. If it was 5, I would stand by that prediction. I did think Ian looked tired at the end of the third, but again, that just could be my bias because I went with Belal. It was a great performance from Ian Garry, though. Round 1, instantly eye pokes Belal Muhammad, literally instantly into the fight. Not too bad of an eye poke, but still can't be doing that. Then Belal pressuring offensively the entirety of the first round, but he was just getting stung constantly. Like, it was shades of JDM versus Belal Muhammad, where JDM would get backed up and just land a counter hook, and you'd see Belal coming back with his hands there. You know that look on his face where he's like kind of busted up, and Ian was able to keep him on the outside and just land some beautiful kicks, some nice leg kicks, some stomps to the leg. That really helps to like halt the pressure of Belal Muhammad, landing some counter hooks as Belal was coming in, slipping shots as well. And Belal was just having too simpleton of a game plan, coming in with just some boxing on the outside, shot like a decent amount of takedowns, but not nearly enough, I wouldn't think. And he would bring him up against the cage, go for the clinch, not really go for the high crotch, which I did think he would go for. And Ian Garry was just able to slip and rip on Belal Muhammad. I will say Belal's scar tissue did get made a lot worse by JDM because all of those same swellings came up in this very fight, and all the same cuts coming up. Even the Leon Edwards fight where he got busted up at the end of it. Like, I'm seeing a lot of these same injuries for Belal, and it doesn't look good on the judges' eyes, especially in close rounds. And those second and third rounds were close rounds, but I just thought Ian Garry was ahead, stuffing all of the takedowns of Belal. Really impressive that he wasn't taken down, or wasn't taken down if he was for long. And although Belal was doing okay in those rounds in the boxing, he was just constantly getting stung and outdone by Ian Garry in this fight. I will say the call-out for Ian Garry, really good. I didn't expect him to have that sort of a good call-out, but I'm impressed with it. I'm happy that he made it, and I'm excited to see that fight against Islam Makhachev, just because Islam took down JDM super easily, but Ian Garry made that a really hard task, and I know Belal also didn't really have an easy time taking JDM down and couldn't do it until those last 2 rounds, but maybe Ian Garry, with all the kicks and all of that sort of stuff, is going to have a better shot. So I'm excited to see that, and I hope they make that next. Moving on, we've got Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker. Great performance for Arman. He's been out of the cage for a very long time, so I was quite impressed that he was able to put this level of performance. I did predict he would be able to get a first round or second round TKO to ground and pound, and he almost got it. But he got the submission instead, and I thought that he might have some hairy moments coming into this just because he's been out of the cage for so long. But this was a very good return for him. I thought the ground and pound was very good, and it was a very nice arm triangle. Early, Hooker gave him a lot of problems with the kicks and the takedown defense. Not a lot of problems, but first couple of minutes he was able to stuff the takedown, separate after a couple of minutes in the clinch, or like a minute in the clinch. And he was landing some good teeps to the body, some body kicks as well. But then Arman's boxing started to work, and he started to land a couple of leg kicks in there. And it sort of just gave Dan Hooker a little bit more to worry about. And he was landing some really I think he landed a 2-piece combination. Both of them landed a hook at the same time as well. And then I think Arman went for... Arman crashes headfirst. Sorry, I just had a brain fart. I've been awake since 3 a.m. But Arman crashes into the clinch and just smacks into Dan Hooker's orbital. I definitely think he broke his orbital there. It instantly ballooned up, and his entire eyebrow there, it was just completely busted. And I do hate that. I hate that. I wanted to see a very clean victory if he was going to get one, similar to the Joel Alvarez fight. I was hoping to see something like that. So I wasn't happy to see him crash in, breaking probably the skull of Dan Hooker. But then straight after that, Arman sort of gave up his back in the clinch, and then Dan Hooker went to jump on the back. But then Arman was able to instantly defend it, and Dan Hooker went for a guillotine with that. And it was quite tight for a moment there. I actually thought it was locked in, and then Arman's just got this crazy ability to get out of guillotines where he just almost snaps his neck and goes to a different position. So he almost snaps his neck, goes to side control, and then able to dominate the rest of the round in side control, definitely winning himself the round. Round 2, though, early on gets the takedown again. I think Dan Hooker has a moment or two in the striking early, and then Dan Hooker instantly goes for the guillotine again. Really bad decision making to go for it a second time, and to be fair, it probably would have felt tight, and Arman again just swivels and almost breaks his neck. That one was almost more impressive to me because of how speedy it was and the sort of position he put his neck in to be able to do that. And it was so impressive from him. He really did go for that guillotine, Dan Hooker. And to be honest, I thought if he was going to use a guillotine, he would use it more like he did against Mateusz Gamrot, where he used it to get up. But in saying that, Gamrot also used the guillotine to get back on himself. So Arman was able to swivel out of it, use some ground and pound out of full guard, pass to side control or half guard first. Yeah, it was a half guard first, and then went over to mount, landing some more ground and pound, locked in the arm triangle, finished Dan Hooker. Very good win there for Arman Tsarukyan, and it was a really good performance from him. He came out with basically not a scratch, didn't get hurt the entire time. Think that maybe some of these taller guys will give him a problem, and Ilya's definitely going to be a problem for it. But they have to put Ilya on ice until Arman's ready, as long as it's within the next couple of months, next like 4 months, 5 months. Put him on ice until then, make him wait for it, and that's going to be a very competitive fight, especially in the grappling there. And Arman even showed improvements in the boxing. I thought he would look a little bit more lost on the feet and spend a little bit less time there. So I'm impressed with Arman there. And to be honest, I think he's got a good shot against Ilya. I really do. I just don't know if he's got the control and the instant takedowns to be able to keep Ilya down there. So it's going to be a very fun fight if it does come to fruition. And I hope it does. But let me know what you thought of the card in the comment section below. I thought it was a very good card. I'm pretty sure, apart from the Belal Muhammad and Garry fight, all of the main card was finishes. Few nasty KOs as well, like the Oezdemir KO, the Orolbai KO, the Waldo KO, the Horiguchi performance. Actually, yeah, there was Luke Riley KO. Really good performances. There was only really, counting here, like 2 stinkers on the card. Only the first fight of the night, Marek Buljo versus Denzel Friedman. Awful fight. The Narilla Alia versus Shaquem Rock, that was a fun fight against 2 tough, good prospects. Good finishes after that. Bexit Almacan Taporia, fun against 2 prospects. Very good fight. Bunch of finishes after that. Perez Almabayev, scrap. Dalby versus Sagid was an awful fight. So it was just those 2 that were bad fights. Even the Belal Muhammad and Garry fight, very fun. So very happy with the card. Happy that I woke up at 3 a.m. to watch it. I feel like I'm going to die right now. But if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and a comment, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.